This past month, I increased my Instagram followers by over 1,800 and increased my story views by 50%. All while having my engagement drop. Maybe likes and comments aren't so important after all. In this video, I'm going to take you through my monthly deep dive into my Instagram insights so we can all take a look at the impact that my content strategy had on my metrics. And I'll show you exactly what I did in order to gain almost 2,000 followers last month. Let's get into it. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name's Katie and I'm here to be your guide through your content creator journey. Today, like I said, we're looking at my Instagram insights. I made an Instagram insights review video last month and asked y'all if you would like to see this on a regular basis, so we're bringing it back for February. I actually think this is a really great way to review my content strategy because, you know, I'm always providing videos for y'all on content strategy ideas, how I grow my Instagram, how I grow my clients' Instagram, and all that stuff. And I think that it's just helpful to kind of look back and say, okay, so this was the content strategy plan. Now, did it actually work? So before we get into all of that, let me know in the comments how this past month was for you on Instagram. Did you see growth? Did you run into any specific challenges? Let me know how it went because I might be able to make some videos addressing some of the problems that you're seeing or providing some advice on what you can do to move forward. Okay, so today I thought that we would look at my Instagram insights just on my phone. You know that I'm a big fan of Later, and in the past I've loved to show you my analytics using Later, but I know not everybody uses Later as their scheduler, so I thought it might be helpful to open up the actual insights part of the Instagram app and show you how to find all this information. So feel free to grab your phone and kind of look through yours as we go along together, and I can kind of tell you how to analyze each of these numbers and what they might mean about your content strategy. Okay, so the first step is to open up Instagram and go to your profile, and we're going to tap on Insights. So there's 3 main metrics that are listed at the top of this page. Also, I'm just going to say from the outset, we're going to see notifications throughout this. Y'all, I don't know how to turn off Instagram's like internal notifications because I'm constantly getting ones pop up for engagement over on the Creatorly account, which I obviously love to see, but it's also like, I can't tell you how many times I've accidentally tapped out of an Instagram story because I go to like add more text and then I tap it exactly at the moment that the notification comes up, and it's like, I don't think there's a way to turn it off. So anyway, don't mind that. So like I was saying, there are 3 main metrics that Instagram brings up to the top. So obviously these are important when it comes to growth. These are kind of the main things that we want to look at, as indicated by the fact that Instagram shows them to us so clearly. So we have accounts reached, accounts engaged, and our total followers. This is kind of a little bit of an equation really, because the accounts reached that you then engage can become your followers. So you can kind of see how that process works there. So we're going to go through each of these individually, and I'm going to talk about the trends that I'm seeing and what they mean for my growth. So let's just change this to the last month, so our previous month here, and update it so we can see it for all of February. Okay, so first off, let's look at accounts reached. So you can see right off the bat that we've got a negative number here, which we don't love to see, but it's okay. These are just numbers. They don't have any bearing on like your worth, your creativity. It's all right. So let's tap into that. So mine is 25%. So basically I reached a quarter less of the accounts than I did in January. So you can see a total number at the top, 47,000 accounts reached. We can scroll down and see followers and non-followers. Now this is the interesting part when it comes to growth, because a big part of being able to grow organically is reaching people who aren't following you yet. So you can see that I reached 16,000 of my followers and 30,000 non-followers. Obviously that's exciting because it means that I've got a lot of potential for growth. There are 30,000 people who saw my content that haven't hit that follow button yet. So those are 30,000 more followers that I might have if I am able to create content that really grabs them and pulls them in. And you can see I'm reaching 16,000 of my existing followers. So that is a little more than half of my followers. So obviously it'd be nice to reach more of them, but I think this is pretty normal. All of us are going to have followers that have started following us at some point along our journey and maybe have dropped off a little bit. Maybe the algorithm doesn't show them our content as much. That's okay. That's normal. I think your goal should always be to continue to engage and reach more of your existing audience, but don't beat yourself up if that's just not happening. It's very normal. So this is where we get into some interesting information about our content reach. Here you can see a breakdown of where my reach came from. So obviously a lot of it is from Reels. that has been a common theme for probably about a year and a half now on Instagram. For a lot of people, this is our main way to reach new accounts and grow. So here it breaks it down. The light blue is followers and the dark blue is non-followers. So you can see of all types of content, Reels are the most effective at reaching people who aren't following you yet, which is something a lot of us already know. And then in terms of posts, you can see that some of my posts did reach people that aren't following me yet. So there definitely is still potential for discoverability through feed content. I'm going to guess a lot of that came from some of my more shareable carousels, the kind of stuff that might show up on the Explore page, but we'll dive into that more in detail in a second. And then you can see from stories that pretty much all of my reach from stories was with my own audience. So that's okay. That's very normal. Stories are going to be where we reach our most dedicated followers. And I reached about 7,800 accounts with my stories this month. So like I was mentioning, my story views were definitely up in February. And this is really like a total number of the unique accounts that I've reached. So let's say my stories get like 2,000 views daily, like on average. That means that it's kind of the same 8,000 people that are seeing it all the time. It's just like some days they might not see it, sometimes they do. So that's sort of what that number means. Man, Creatorly's popping off with the notifications today. So this is where I think we can gain a lot of information about our content strategy and what you might want to create moving forward, because you can see what your top posts, stories, and reels were based on reach. So let's just pop into posts for a second. We can already see, if we scroll across here, the reach associated with them, but we can get more details if we kind of go into each individual one. So when you open this up, it's going to default to last year, but I'm just going to change this to the last 30 days so we can focus in mostly on February. So you can see this Instagram feed is changing post. I believe that actually was from February 1st. Okay, cool. This is one of my top performing posts from the month. So let's go into view insights on this post specifically so we can see what's going on. So you can see that it got a lot of likes and comments, like this is a high engagement rate for me, but also a huge number of shares and saves. And that is really, really effective when it comes to getting your content out onto the Explore page, into other people's stories, that kind of thing. So you can see that I reached over 11,000 people with this content, which is pretty incredible. And actually over 2,000 of them were not already following me. So this is the kind of content that really gives you an opportunity to get on the Explore page and potentially find new followers. So it doesn't have to be all about Reels. It can be about really valuable, shareable content as well. And if we scroll down here, actually, we see that in our profile activity section, we can see how many people visited my profile from this post and how many people followed me, how many people went to my link, that kind of thing. And you can see that I got 82 new followers from this post. That's pretty impressive for me. Honestly, for a long time, my feed content has kind of been in a rut of mostly just reaching my own audience. So I was really, really happy to see this one kind of jump outside of just my little circle of loyal followers and find some new eyes. So when you find a post like this yourself in your insights, you need to ask yourself, why might this have performed so well? And I know for sure why this one did, and that is because it was addressing a very popular topic in Instagram news, and that is the feed changing. So talking about how they're testing out the new home following and favorites, and obviously this is going to be interesting to people wondering how their strategy might change and all that stuff. And so I'm just kind of talking about what my thoughts are on like potential changes that this new update will bring. I find that these kinds of carousels, especially when they're addressing timely or sort of like trendy news, that's when they can be really, really effective at getting those shares and saves. So going back to our other posts, you can see I don't do a lot of feed posts in a month. Like most of my content is reels. So yeah, this 5 posts is it from February, and the Instagram feed is changing carousel definitely got the most reach, and then it really drops off from there. Like if we go into this one, for instance, you'll see I didn't even crack 600 likes with that. It only got 4 shares, which I understand, and then, you know, only reached 400 non-followers. So that's how it goes sometimes. It's okay. Not every piece of content needs to have the goal of reaching a bajillion people. Like sometimes it's just about nurturing your existing audience, and that's fine too. Now, I think it's interesting that my carousel about how I brought my dead TikTok back to life definitely got less engagement because it's in the same format as that Instagram is changing carousel. So what that tells me is while this carousel format is really effective, My audience definitely seems to be more interested in Instagram strategy rather than TikTok strategy, even though here on my YouTube channel, a lot of my most popular videos are about TikTok. So that just kind of tells me in the future I can focus my efforts on making carousels about Instagram and Instagram updates specifically. So you can see already how much we can learn just by analyzing what our top reaching posts were. So stories, we can kind of scroll through and see what my stories that got the most views were. And you can see in general, my stories were getting a lot more views this month than in previous months. Unfortunately, Instagram doesn't store story views data very far back in the past, so we can't really analyze it long term. But I just know, like, from memory that in December, January, cracking 1,000 Instagram story views was good for me. So as you scroll through here, we see that I've got some over 3,000, like most over 2,000. So that's really exciting to see. And I honestly think the main reason that changed is because of van life. I think people were just really interested to see where I was going, and it was just kind of a different type of story than I was normally making, which used to be just me sitting at my desk. So unfortunately, just doing van life is not very replicable advice, but I do honestly think that is why my story views changed. Just a quick second before we go into the next section, I wanted to say a big thank you to the sponsor of this week's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform filled with thousands of classes for creative and curious people like you and me. Whether you want to learn about digital marketing, video editing, photography, social media growth, you can find a class on Skillshare. Skillshare is also ad-free, so you can learn in the distractionless bliss that is a corner of the internet without advertising. And Skillshare classes are now subtitled in 5 different languages, so you can learn in English, German, French, Spanish, and Portuguese, which I think is really cool. And if you want to learn about YouTube growth, I highly recommend checking out Marissa Romero's course, How to Use YouTube to Build and Grow a Business. Marissa is a YouTube friend of mine. We've collabed in the past, and I know that she knows her stuff when it comes to YouTube content creation and growth strategies, especially if you're trying to make a business out of your YouTube channel. So when I saw that Marissa released a course, I was super excited for her, so definitely go check that out. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare Premium. So if you want to keep on improving your creative skills and learning something new, then go check out the link in the description. Okay, so going out of reach, let's look at accounts engaged, because that's kind of the next main metric that we need to consider. So you can see that my accounts engaged number did decrease versus January 1st to 31st, but somehow your girl still got more followers, which I find really, really interesting. So basically, just to interpret this a little bit more for you, you can see that we've got over 6,000 accounts engaged here, but if we scroll down, we see, oh, but there is 17,000 content interactions. What does that mean? Basically what it means is your content interactions is your total number of likes, comments, shares, and saves that you got throughout the whole month. This number up here, 6,200, that is the number of accounts that were doing those interactions. So you had a total group of 6,000 people, let's say, interacting with your content, and they provided 17,000 interactions. So the same person can like multiple of your posts. Basically, that's what that number difference is. So let's take a look at my top posts when it comes to content interactions. Again, I only had 5 posts in February because I mostly do reels. So we're just going to change this again to the last 30 days, and we're going to go to post interactions, because that's going to compile your likes, comments, shares, and saves, not just show you likes. So we can see that my big carousel got almost 2,000, and then it really drops off from there to like 1,200, 500, whatever. This second most popular one, I think it's interesting because I really anticipated that a carousel like this would perform better, because I thought, oh, it's all about the photo dumps, it's all about carousels. But actually, this post here, that's a more like, you know, editorial, like I planned out this photo shoot, and it's just a single image, this performed better. And I think part of that is because the comment was addressing like a very common question I get, something that I know I get engagement on when I talk about, and that is like what to do to grow a brand new Instagram. So I think what we can learn from this is, even though some content formats, for example, the carousel photo dump, seem really trendy and really effective, and they are for some accounts, I think that going back to basics and knowing like my audience cares about how to grow from scratch on Instagram, you're able to get a lot of engagement on content, even if it is just a single image post and a really well written caption, if it's addressing the kind of thing that your audience is really interested in. And what I learned is, sharing content to my feed about van life or like my personal kind of travels is not all that engaging to my audience. It seems to perform really well on my story. Like I was saying, like that has really increased my story views, but it doesn't pop off in the feed very well. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that I'm never going to share it again, because obviously it's a big part of my life and I enjoy making those kinds of posts, but it's going to be serving basically my own creativity and my closest circle of dedicated followers, and I'm not going to expect my van life content to really pop off and hit the explore page. That's fine. It's all about building the relationship with my closest followers, and I can use content like this to reach new people. So it's all a balance. All of these different types of posts really do different actions inside your strategy. It's not all about just trying to get the most reach or the most followers with every single piece of content. Okay, and you can see again, my story interactions have also increased. I've gotten a lot more replies, a lot more shares, and the biggest thing is I just think I'm getting more story views. So I think that has really increased the interactions. And then there are some pieces that get a lot of replies, which is cool. I'm kind of curious about like why certain things get more replies than others. This one is clear to me because basically I was like, wow, I'm so stupid. I spelled alligators wrong twice in my story. If you were there for that, if you know kind of thing. But anyway, I think people were like, LOL, it's fine, don't beat yourself up. But this one I found interesting because normally I feel like, oh, I need to, like add all this text, like add a question box, add a poll. This one is literally just a photo with good morning at the top, and it got the second most number of story replies or interactions. So that's really interesting. And then, some of these other ones I can see why they might be more engaging because I'm sort of like prompting a response. But yeah, just kind of interesting to see. Again, my Reels interactions are down from January. I think part of that is I had a few like really successful Reels in January, so that kind of like skewed that number higher. But even though my interactions are down, we're still like gaining more followers. So you can see my top Reels based on likes, which is really helpful information. People seem to really like the Reels that I filmed in this one outfit. And video and live video interactions would be helpful if I ever posted any of that kind of content, but I don't. So once again, lots of stuff we can learn from that, from what is most engaging. And again, going back to basics, to what I was saying at the beginning, it's all about basically reach times engagement equals number of new followers. Like if you can reach a lot of people and they become engaged, they're more likely to become your new followers. So we kind of have to look at each stage of the journey and figure out what was effective at reaching a lot of people, what was effective at engaging people, and then that is sort of what equals follower growth. So to round this all out, let's look at the third metric on our insights overview, and that is total followers. And you can see we had a 7% growth in terms of follower growth. So that means I gained 7% more followers than I did last month. Any growth is good to see. I feel like so often we glamorize like massive explosions, and I know I'm guilty of that too. Like in my video like this last month, I was like, I doubled my follower growth, and it's very exciting when that kind of thing happens. But I think that you shouldn't let yourself get down if you see modest growth, like 7%. That's okay too. We're here for sustainable long-term growth. So you can see that I gained actually 2,500 followers, but because 600 people-ish unfollowed me, my overall growth is 1,800, which landed me at 28.3k followers at the end of this month. I'll be honest, in the back of my mind, I was like, wouldn't it be sick if I hit 30k by the time I got to make this video? But that's all right. There's no reason to get super attached to certain numbers. It's just about showing up, making the quality content, and putting it in over months and months, and not like trying to hit certain numbers by certain dates. I wanted to mention the like total here because I think it's easy to get discouraged when you can see like, oh dang, like I could have had 2,500 new followers if I just wouldn't have been so shitty and gotten people to unfollow me. That's not a good mindset to get into because people are always going to unfollow. Like someone might have followed you for a reel and then the next day you post something a little bit different and they're like, never mind, I'm not interested. That's okay. If they chose to unfollow you, they weren't going to be an engaged follower anyway, so And then of course you can look into your top locations, your age range, that kind of thing. To me, this isn't anything that I didn't already know. Like, I was very aware that most of my followers are women, most of them are 25 to 34, and there's not really, like, cities isn't super meaningful to me because everybody's from all over the place. But if I look at countries, I can see almost half are from the US, 11% are from Canada, etc. This information's so general that if you have a good idea of who your ideal follower is, it's probably not going to be a surprise to you. So yeah, there it is. 1,800 new followers. Hopefully you can kind of connect the dots and see what we went through with reach and engagement, what sort of led to that. So how will this impact my strategy moving forward? That's the big question. We don't want to just look at our insights to dwell on numbers and results. We need to ask ourselves, okay, that's what happened last month, so what am I going to do next month to try to mitigate the disadvantages of that strategy and really emphasize the advantages that helped me grow? If you want to see in detail how this is going to impact my strategy, then go ahead and watch this video where I sit down with you and plan all of my content for March. But to summarize, I am going to be trying to focus on more value-packed carousels about Instagram and Instagram updates. I'm going to sprinkle in a few single image graphics just to kind of like weigh out that workload, because making in-depth carousels like that is a lot of work. Next, I'm going to stay consistent with my reels, try to keep posting them as frequently, because obviously that's been effective for me so far, and I think it's just about showing up to bat every day, and eventually you'll hit a home run, you'll get a viral reel. So I'm going to try to stay consistent with that. And then finally, I do want to sprinkle in some more feed content that's personal to me, maybe a little bit more vulnerable, to connect with my closest followers. And again, that's not super high priority because I know it won't necessarily like pop off and get in the explore page, but it's fun to make, and it's important to me to keep building that connection with my MVP followers, my besties. And of course, I'm going to try to keep up the stories, because clearly my stories have been performing well for me, and it's a really great way to keep that connection going on a daily basis. Alright, that is my Instagram Insights report for February. I hope that you found it insightful or helpful for figuring out your own strategy, so you can kind of see a connection here between the content that I planned for February and the impact that it had on my growth. Again, let me know in the comments how February was for you in terms of your Instagram growth, if you ran into any particular problems, or if you have any questions that I maybe could answer in a future video. Again, next up, make sure you watch that March content planning video so you can see how I took this information and turned it into a content strategy. And as always, I hope that you are having adventures and following your dreams, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!